Something struck me a little bit odd today. I was having a talk with a friend who, he was showing me the Day of the Pillow meme. And I thought, wow. For anyone who doesn't know what the Day of the Pillow meme is, apparently people have gotten so irritated and so angry with boomers, that is, baby boomers, and their, attitude towards gun control as it applies under their President Donald Trump, and their attitude towards, millennials in general. Apparently the Day of the Pillow meme is something that's come about in response to people being so exasperated with them that they think that there's going to come a day when those boomers are going to be laying in bed and you're just going to suffocate them to death. And I just thought, holy shit. Like, did we really need more? Like, my whole idea and practice is that I want to love people. I want to be good to people. I'm not always perfect when it comes to practice, but, I do my best. And my best may not always be good enough, but again, I try. That's the point. So you've got this Day of the Pillow meme, and basically we're saying we're so sick of you boomers running your mouths and doing this and doing that. And one day we're just going to suffocate you in your bed, probably while you're under our care, because the meme I saw had him in a hospital room. So I thought, that's great. Just what the world needs, right? More intolerance towards other people, more hatefulness. That's just what we need. So I talked to him about it, and this buddy of mine, he's a real good Christian guy, and he saw the meme for its intended purpose, which is just, it's funny, it's humor, right? But this guy, he's a good Christian guy, and he follows and believes, as I do, in what's written about God and about Christ in the Bible. And so I had to talk with him for a bit. Because that meme kind of bugged me a little bit. I'm not going to go out and say I got offended because, well, I just don't do that. I try my best not to anyways. I just said, it's just kind of sad that we're at another point in time here where people feel the need to be so angry that we're thinking about killing people that we dislike. And he said he understood, because of course, like I said, he's a biblical guy, and he realizes at the end of the day that that's, just another step in the wrong direction. But what he basically came down to was he's just, as I suspect many people are, getting flustered at the constant just taking of power by those who are ignorant. And when I say ignorant, I mean people with a very unsupported view of the world, very one-sided, the Trumpers or the leftists or one side or the other. They've got very narrow points of view. And all these people seem to want is power, and all they seem to want to do is take. They seem to want more of what you have, whether that be your personal sense of security, your happiness, the things that make you laugh, what you perceive as freedoms. They want to take. They want to take because it gives them more control. And in the end, there's really only two political parties, and that's people who want, and that's people who want to be left alone. If you ever take anything out of politics, that's really all there is to it. You either want, or you want to be left alone. That's it. So if you can get yourself on the right side of that political spectrum, you'll be fine. Anyway, so basically he's complaining about the folks on the right, specifically the boomers, who are on the side of want. They want what you have. They want more. They can't stop wanting. They don't know how to be satisfied. And so that's what they're going to do. They're going to continue to want, and they're going to take by whatever means necessary. So he was just voicing his frustration about these people. I kind of had to speak with him and say, they can't take what you don't have. And I felt the need to explain myself, as I do here. His complaint was that they're constantly trying to take your rights. They can't take what you don't have. What, you don't have rights? I mean, sure you do. Although I think it's a little bit more complicated than that. It's kind of like, sure, you have free will for the purpose of making the right decisions, to filter yourself more or less. I have rights. I have a lovely little V8 sports car. I have a couple of Glocks. I have a house. I have a wife. These are all things I have. But I don't have them. You see, I think the notion of actual ownership, it's a bad notion. You shouldn't hold personal ownership over anything. Because if you follow Christ, right, we've been asked to turn over not only our sin, not only our heartbreak, not only our pain, but also our blessings, our hopes, our dreams, our potential, our abilities. All of these things we've given over our lives to Christ, so that at the end of all things, we can say, we picked the treasure in the field over the riches we could accumulate. And so I guess what I'm getting at here is, I would much rather enjoy the freedom of saying, yeah, you can physically take anything you want from me. You want my guns? You know, don't get me wrong, there was a period of time where I was ready to go down in flames, just like every other patriot out there. Believe me, I come from that side of the aisle. In fact, I don't even know if I believe in the aisle anymore, but I came from that side of the aisle and I said, you're not taking nothing from me. And nowadays I see that ownership of anything it's a trap. It's an absolute trap. I gave those things up when I really and truly, finally sold out to Christ. It took me almost 30 years to do it. You know, I thought I had it figured out a long time ago. Turned out to not be the case. So at the end of the day, where is the freedom? What is the summary? What's the point to all this? The point is that if you're feeling anxiety over the potential loss of something, because day after day you're being made aware of the takers in this world. If they're just in your face, you can't get rid of them, you can't ignore them because they're always there. Well, it's because you're holding on to things that if you were following the King, the one who's going to pay you back a millionfold for the things that you offer up to him, you would say, they can't take anything because I have nothing. I gave it all to Christ. In your heart, in here where it matters, where those addictions are built, where if you don't get out to drive your fancy car every couple of days, it hurts, doesn't it? If you don't get out to shoot your guns that you saved up all this money for, and by God, you're gonna defend your firmly to the end, right? If you don't get out to train at the range and get your skills up so you can really fight off the whoever the hell is gonna come take your stuff, if you're not prepared to do that and you don't get out to the range ever so often, you get that anxiety. It's because you still claim ownership over those things and you haven't given them up. I've said to him many times is that the war here, and I mean, you can look at it. You can look at it and you can see it plain as day. It's true. The war that we all were fighting against the government, against the leftists, against censorship, against gun confiscation, all those wars, they are, without a doubt, already lost. Trust me. Don't trust me. Think it through for yourself. Check the evidence. When you think culturally, okay, do you think that we have gun rights when it takes so little, such a little thing to reignite a discussion that moves down a whole other category of firearms, and a whole new category is banned, boom, overnight. Right now, it's June 2019. So right now, we're talking about suppressors, suppressing your weapon. Donald Trump, he doesn't like him. He's a taker. He doesn't like him. So everybody's afraid of losing their suppressors. And they already have to get a tax stamp on them anyways, but they're afraid of losing it. You think to yourself, what? What did we have? We had one shooting where a guy used a suppressor, and now this is the new talk of the day. If you think that you have the right to actually keep any of your weapons, it's a matter of months or years until they come and prove you wrong. It absolutely is. You think you have the right to not answer the door for police? How many dozens of people just in the past 5 years have we witnessed being proven wrong? How many times will they just kick down your door and let you video record them being completely invasive upon your space? The point is all the things that you think you're fighting for, all the things that you're getting bent out of shape for, it's gone. It's lost. It may not have been implemented directly in your face just yet, but if they don't confiscate your weapons, it's because they don't want to yet. If they don't kick down your door, it's because they don't want to yet. Has nothing to do with your rights, has nothing to do with the fight that you're fighting for. They just don't want to yet. So, if those things you're fighting for in the first place, if they've got a hold of you in your heart, well, yeah, when that happens, you're going to be hurting. You want my recommendation? Give them up. Give them to the one thing in this existence that you can trust. And that is the Heavenly Father. The one who placed the stars in the sky. The one who authored every molecule of DNA in every blade of grass and knows the end from the beginning far beyond what you could ever hope to. Give those things to Him, who loves you beyond what we can define as love. I say that's a pretty good place to store them. You give them up there, no one can take them. Because you don't have them. They're never yours to have. Sure, you can enjoy them. I like to think of it as a loan. I've got a car, gets me to work every day. I've got a couple of pistols, because I like them. These things. There's a reason the Bible says, store not your treasures upon the earth, but store them in heaven. And it took me until today to kind of realize what that meant. That meant that if they're in your heart, if they're above God, if they're an idol to you, they're only going to cause you pain. The trick is, you can kick them out of that spot, you can give them to God, who will then give them to you to enjoy, but you will never be held down by them again. Now, just before I go, one story, because I've actually got an interesting story, kind of illustrates how I came to this. At one point, I've got kind of an obsessive personality. I've got a real bad habit of taking a hobby and going just full out with it. I've got this car after about 3 years of owning a truck, because my last car before that was causing me real sickness in my heart. It was causing me to get a lot of negativity and a lot of hurt over the fact that I couldn't afford to modify it to the extent that it deserved. I couldn't keep it running, and I owed a car payment on it, but it was so awesome. Again, story for another time, but this particular car I believed had a lot of potential. Well, prior to that, I had a real obsession with guns and collecting them and whatnot, and it was bad for me. It hurt. So one day I had this invasive thought. Now, if you guys out there don't know what an invasive thought is, it's a thought that enters your brain that you wouldn't typically think of yourself. It's not from your own logic, your own rationale. It's invasive, and therefore it comes out of nowhere. A lot of those, traditionally an invasive thought is associated with being something negative, right? So you get this really bad mental image in your head, and it shames you that you even thought about it, let alone that it entered your head and now that you're giving it attention. But sometimes it's not that way. I honestly believe, and you can tell me I'm a liar, but I believe invasive thoughts are the voice of the enemy and of the Father. So if you get something that doesn't come from you, from your personality, but it's there and you can't get rid of it, to me, that's the voice of the Father. Or in some cases, it's the voice of the enemy. So back to the story. One day I'm walking back from a smoke break at work, and I'm thinking about my guns, and dang it, I want to modify this. I just put an SKS into a bullpup stock from SG, I think it was SG Works, and I was super proud of this thing, and I've got to modify this, and this, and man, how am I going to afford this red dot? And lots of things going on. I was really proud of my collection back then. And just out of nowhere, in the middle of my mind, loud, and by loud I mean overbearing, it blocked other things out so that I had to pay attention to it. I hear the phrase, "sell your guns." And I go, no way, that is a crazy thought. No way, no how, absolutely not. I am in love with what I've got. This is my baby. I am not doing that. And again, sell your guns. And it's not a request, It's not an internal dialogue. It's not something, maybe I should sell my guns. No. This is a voice that does not invite argument. It's a voice that says, sell your guns. So by this point, I've grown to know the voice of God. It's like the Bible says, my sheep will know my voice, right? So I know the voice of God by this point. I start begging. I start saying, come on, don't take from me the one thing I have, My car isn't running right. This is happening, that's happening. All I've got for relief right now, the only thing I'm into is my guns. And it just says, no, sell your guns. So by this point, I've got the mentality of a person that says, if God speaks, you do not ignore it. You do not disobey to be spoken to. No, that's special. When you realize who God is, that he would deign to speak with you. Men go years waiting to hear the voice of God, even after they've already known him. Read through Psalms. It's full of it. Where are you? Why have you left me? I know you haven't left me, but why can't I? Why aren't you here? That sort of thing. Psalms is full of it. So I go home, and I can't shake this voice. Sell your guns. I get home, and I tell my wife, I'm like, look, I got to take all my guns, and I got to go sell them. And she's like, what? And I'm like, yep, right now. She goes, you can't just sell them right now. I said, I got to. You don't disobey when something like that happens. So I call up these really good folks. I don't know if plugging them will do it any good. They're a small-time shop, but it's RJ's Guns out of Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. Really great folks. And I say, hey guys, how late are you open? And they say, 7. And it's probably right around 5. So I pack up everything I've got, an AK or two. Don't remember if I had my AR by then. Several pistols. I just packed up everything I had, and I headed down to RJ's. And as I get in there, I said, all right, I have to sell these. And I told them what happened. Now, these are good Christian folks, and so they understand. And so I said to them, this is what I have to do. And they said, okay. And so they add them all up. They figure out the total. It comes out to somewhere in the neighborhood of I think it was $1,200, something like that. I mean, I wasn't rich. I was just proud of my collection. So something like $1,200 grand total, and it was several guns. I guess I was what you might call a poor back then for all the gun memers. Not to say that I agree with that whole thing. No, it's just whatever flack you can throw at me from that. Enjoy yourself. But they said, so here's the deal. And I said, okay. And they said, we can do it, but you're going to have to wait until Tuesday. And this is a Thursday night. Okay? They said, you're going to have to wait till Tuesday. This is a small mom and pop shop. And they said, we'll have the cash to give it out to you now. But for whatever reason, this has just so happened, we'd love to buy them from you. We just can't. And now it's like 7:30 at night. They've stayed past, nobody else is open. So there is no physical way that I can go anywhere else tonight and sell these guns. Nowhere. There's nowhere else that's just going to take them and buy them now, the way that the voice insisted. Because to me, when God speaks, it's to be taken with the most seriousness, and it's not meant to be, oh, okay, yeah, tomorrow. No. It's a right now sort of thing. So that plan was foiled. I said, well, what does that mean, right? Certainly you could have made sure that they had the money in their available spending cash in order to make this deal happen. If you really wanted me to sell my guns that bad, what happened? And they said, sorry, we just can't do it. So I get in the car with my wife after packing back up all my guns, and something has happened up here. And it's this weird thing. I'm just like, there for a moment, I was so sure that these guns were going to be gone. That, it's kind of like when you break up with a girlfriend. You kind of go through that emotional phase where you just kind of start letting things go so that it doesn't hurt you as bad. You know what I mean? I was pretty serious back then. I was pretty obsessed. So I kind of went through the process of letting everything go. And as I get back out to the car, I say to my wife, I'm like, these guns and all that, it's really not that big of a deal after all. And what happened was the monetary, the obsessive addiction at that time was broken. And I believe this with all my heart, because to this day, I don't obsess the way I used to. I don't have this same need, this hole that I need to fill with guns or with cars or with performance or with racing or with any of these things. It's just not that important anymore. Once upon a time, it absolutely was. But today, I finally realized what he meant when he said, if you will not forsake your mothers, wives, daughters, husbands, fathers, mothers, family, and follow me, you're not suited to follow. What he meant was, if you can't see the value of the one who placed the planets in orbit, of the one who designed every blade of grass, if you can't see the value in that and instead choose to follow these things, or even these people that will expire, that are not eternal, that are just here, that's not to mean you don't appreciate them. But if you're going to choose them over him, no, you really are not fit to follow him. And what ends up happening is you give a little breakup in here to all of them. You say your goodbyes, and it doesn't hurt the way you think it would. You just kind of let go. And when you let go, everything else opens up. And by everything else, I mean the Spirit of the Father, the real nature of life, the real meaning of what it is to be at peace in this life opens up to you, and you kind of see and you go, you know, I still love my family. I still really enjoy my guns. Sure, I enjoy my car. But if something happened tomorrow, if I had to lose them, they weren't what I was standing on. And if they were, then they were never worthy to be, because things can happen. The Father, He is the rock worth standing on, because nobody can take you from Him, or Him from you. And if anybody can take Him from you, then I recommend getting a little bit closer and digging in a little bit deeper, because that's on you. That's on your convictions at that point. And I mean, all things come with maturity, come with time, come with bearing the brunts of the world with Him as opposed to apart from Him. But that's the rock. That is the true stability to make it through life. And that's necessary.